Chapter 4. The Winged Devil. I sat in the chair in front of the hearth, opened the book, and started reading from it. The atmosphere had set a perfect mood for me to read a horror book. Isolated in a house on a stormy night with nobody for miles to give me company, I had decided to spend my time here until midnight and retire to my room afterwards. I turned page after page, and over time, my eyelids started to become drowsy. Without knowing, I drifted to sleep in the chair. My dreams usually were flying, and this time it was no different. I was soaring in the sky. A strange thing about dreams is that you never know that you are having one. They feel very real. Below was a village. I could see cottages, farms, and various buildings down. It was a view of magnificence. I was having a good time. The village, for some reason, looked bleak. I was able to find no one below. Are all of them staying inside their houses? I asked myself. The sun was at the horizon, suggesting the imminent dusk. Then suddenly, at a far distance, I saw a small dark spot in the air. It was becoming larger with every passing second, so I reckoned that it was moving towards me. I hovered in the air at a position. It had come to the point where I could slightly make out its features. The thing had a human body, a very skinny one. The huge black wings, which were helping it to fly, were those of a bat. Two curved horns, like those of a ram, protruded from its hairless head. The thing came closer, making its features clearer. The body had light black skin. And the face. It was straight out of a nightmare. The thing had no eyes, a nose, or a mouth. It was completely barren of them. The feet had sharp blades like talons. For a moment, my mind was wrapped around questions like how that thing could see where it was going without eyes, how it breathed without a nose, and wouldn't it send it to the state of starvation without any ability to eat? I hovered there on the spot while that winged devil came closer with every passing second. Is it coming for me? I asked myself, am I being hunted by that thing? So, without taking any chances, I turned around and started flying away from the thing. After a while, I looked back and saw that the creature was slowly gaining on me. I started to flap my wings faster and harder to gain speed. Flying at full speed was draining my energy very fast, but it had helped to put some distance between me and that thing. I needed to break his line of sight and find a hiding spot because the thing would continue to chase me, and I was running out of energy. I looked desperately around me and below at the village while flying through the air. Then I spotted something a few meters ahead of me that I thought was a perfect hiding spot. It was a well. By now, the sun had gone down, and the light was quickly failing. The darkness of the well would give a great chance to evade the thing. I was speedily reaching the well. When I had reached the point where the well was exactly below me, without any warning, I made a plunge. I dived straight to the well. I was losing altitude, and the opening of the well was nearing very rapidly. 20 meters, 15 meters, 10 meters, 5 meters, 1 meter. I entered the darkness of the well, and made a splash in the water. The well was very deep, and the water lay at the very bottom of it. I grabbed hold of the stones, which protruded a bit out from the wall, and floated above the surface of the water. I stayed there for a long time with my head staring up at the sky. I didn't want to take any chances, so for an hour or so, I stayed there. Finally, with no sign of my pursuer, I decided to get out. My body was completely soaked in the cold water. I wished that I wouldn't catch a cold. Slowly, I made my ascent to the surface, my wings flapping gently to create as little noise as possible. I had decided to take a peek before leaving the shelter of the well completely, for the thing could still be lurking around. I reached the surface. Carefully, I poked my head above and had a nice, long look around. The rest of the body lay hidden in the well. It seemed clear that the thing had gone. I took a breath of relaxation. I had successfully evaded that winged devil. I flew out of the well and started to gain some altitude. When I had reached the desired height, I made my way to the north. The moon had climbed up and was bathing everything in its silver light. The village still looked bleak. No lantern was seen lit in any of the houses. For about half an hour, I flew in the north. I had now left the village and was about to enter a forest. It was silent, and there was no sound except the beating of my wings. I was soon passing giant trees of many kinds below me. My continuous flying had made me thirsty. I couldn't go back to the well since I had left it far behind. I must find another source of water on my way. After flying for some time, I saw a lake in the distance. I counted myself lucky because I could now replenish my energy. I landed on the bank of the lake. I was panting and gasping for air, exhausted from the exertion. I observed the surroundings. It was a huge lake, and the water looked very calm. When my breathing had reached normal, I took my face near the water to drink. I didn't know why I had decided to drink like an animal. As I moved my face to the water, the reflection of my face started to form. I was shocked by what I saw. Horrified, I suddenly took a few steps backward from the lake. I had seen in the reflection the face of that winged devil, which had pursued me. I had no eyes, a nose, or mouth. I looked down at my body, which I had not seemed to notice so far. It was a human-like skinny body with sharp talons at the feet. I now looked to the wings, which had been helping me to fly, and realized that they were of a bat. I touched the long, curved horns, which protruded from my forehead. What am I? What is this place? I asked myself. For a moment, I stood there, petrified with horror. How can I breathe without a nose? How am I seeing things without any eyes? Am I some kind of magical creature? Soon, with those questions swirling inside my head, I took flight. While I was hovering at a spot, not sure where to head, I saw a black cloud far in the distance against the moon. It was heading in my way. The cloud looked immense. I didn't care for it for the moment and continued to look about. It was night, but somehow I could see things very clearly with not a single eye. Distant noise started to come from the direction of that black cloud. The noise didn't feel natural. Clouds don't make such noise. I said to myself. I focused on the cloud. Slowly, the noise became more audible and clearer. It was kind of a sound of beating wings, lots of them. As the cloud moved closer and closer, its elements were becoming clearer. Now it had come close enough to make out of it. When I realized what it was, a chill of horror ran down my spine. There were no clouds. A legion of winged devils was flying towards me. I was able to evade one of them, but how am I going to evade these many? I thought to myself, will they hurt me? I am one of them after all. I thought and continued to hover at the spot in the air. With every passing second, the black cloud of those winged devils continued to come closer, the beating of their wings becoming louder. The wits had left my mind, and I was able to think of nothing. When the legion was about 50 meters away, they let out a shrill cry. The sound of that cry almost ripped my eardrums and made my head hurt. I looked to the moon. It had become red like blood. The legion was now closing in very fast. 40 meters, 35 meters, 20 meters, 15 meters. I was now ready to be engulfed in that immense black cloud. 10 meters, 5 meters, 1 meter, and with a sharp blow, it made contact. I felt like I had just been hit by a giant ship. Every part of my body was in excruciating pain. Everything had become dark and silent. Then suddenly, I was awakened by the sound of thunder. My whole body was in perspiration. Even though the fire in the hearth was still alive, my body was shivering. I was panting heavily and gasping for air. The storm outside was raging heavily. Oh God, what a horrifying dream! I said to myself. I was glad that it was finally over. Slowly, my heartbeats returned to normal. I didn't know how long I had been out. I looked at the clock. It showed that it was 5 minutes to midnight. So, as I had planned, I stood up, grabbed a book, and retired to my room.